Once you learn how to admit in the present moment, then you release it all as it shows. As it comes to you, you can sigh a relief of it. It's like breath in, breath out. You're holding on to so much stuff that has no use for you. We hoard pain like a hoarder keeps physical shit in their house. And it's up to you to decide to let go. And surrendering kickstarts through your ability to admit. Why do you think the church created confession? This is like a technology, guys. Admitting is more sophisticated technology than an iPhone. Once you could admit really what you're going through, like the real shit, cry a bunch, just fucking surrender to it, then it heals you. But please listen to what I just said. It heals you. All the pain and all the suffering that you believe in is a teacher, and the pain leaves when it's done healing you. So embrace the pain, embrace the suffering, embrace it all, because guess what? It was created by your mind. Now, I know you might have had something real happen to you, but we're here now. So what has already happened to you, you are left with a choice right now about how you will respond to that thing that has already happened to you. Do you want to keep reacting to it? Well, has that served you? Or are you ready to respond to it? And when you get more comfortable at just admitting presently and being humble, in the process, then you don't store ever. Or your storing process is kind of like similar to normal digestion. You eat some food, you digest it, you take a shit. Dude, trauma works the same. And I know this is super tough for some people because people want to make it out to be this thing that's much more complicated and much bigger than it actually is. But I can guarantee you right now, there's a reason why some of the most successful people on this earth had some of the most fucked up childhoods. And it's because they were coded with a way to actually surrender and be inspired and motivated by the trauma. Whilst 99.99% of humanity lets it be an infinite incarceration of their ability to take action and progress. So I know these words might seem tough, but there's an immense amount of utility to them. These are the tools, and it is as simple as admitting. So truthfully, it's just to say, to speak away with what once cast you under a spell. You now are using that tool against it. You are showing this trauma, this pain, this suffering, that you are no longer on its leash any longer. You are no longer the puppet on the strings. You're severing the strings. And when you're done cutting the strings, I want you to turn around and hug the puppet master. Because guess what? That is you. You are your own final boss. It's not your girlfriend that broke up with you. It's not your father that treated you like shit when you were little. It's not your mother forgetting your birthday 1 year. It's none of that. It is none of that. It is you. It's you. So you could continue to wake up every day and play victim. Or you could be inspired by the fact that that trauma, although it's an obstacle, imagine the floodgates that will open up for you once you decide to overcome that obstacle. It will be a paradigm shift. It's like jumping out of the airplane when you're skydiving. Sure, it's fucking nerve-wracking, but the thrill of it going in the process as you're just free falling through the goddamn sky. That risk, by the way, it's not for everyone, but it is definitely for the conscious. And if you've made it here this far, then you've been gifted with that ability to go through experiences that not everyone was coded to go through. So you got to tap into that. You have to. It's a gift. Most are too frail to make it through this matrix. Most people that come here to the simulation believe it's a physical only experience with a zero spiritual component. And at the same time, that person believes externally in a religion. It's mind-blowing how many layers of this Russian doll trap that exist. And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Many, many, many more layers. The more fractaled out from presence you are. So the more you can zoom into presence and be there and feel there, you'll be able to work better with all the things that were holding you down in a timeline that you physiologically could have done nothing about. Seriously. Even if you got physiologically harmed in the past. Or you believe by doing some action in the now, it would lead to some circumstance that will make you physiologically harmed in the future. However you want to chop it up. It's just you using imagination poorly. So we're here to talk about how to tap into imagination in a way that is fearless, but also accepts natural law. And it's as simple as this. Fear. We talked about this before. Don't look at the numbers. Just look at what I type. Fear. You remove the R, and that's your fee. That is the fee you pay. That is the ultimate hidden tax. And all of that goes to the same institution that created all of your languages, all of your maths, every institution system that you could possibly think of. That is why they stay in control and in power, even though they are outnumbered by you, the 99.99%, to 0.00001%, and they've been doing it for thousands of years. They do it by you holding on to trauma and being the infinite victim, while simultaneously having a savior. So if you take victim technology and you mix it in the bowl with savior technology, this is called slave technology. And you got to work with both of those polarities I just talked about to break free from that and no longer be used as an electrolyte in that battery. But those two pillars right there, Yakin and Boaz, if you're in that situation of being the victim, I just exposed to you what it is. And you are consistently being used for your electrolytes through fear. Now, the beautiful thing about consciousness, and as we expand consciously, is we tend to become more fearless, but at the same time, we tend to become more in our thoughts and sometimes less in philosophy. And this is where I want to bring more utility to all of this. It's better to sometimes play around with the philosophy more, to just be more philosophical about it all. That's where you never stop your search. That is where you flow like liquid. You flow when you're more in philosophy, and less when you're in these strict concepts. And I'll talk about one thing, and then we can move on. But one of the most strict concepts ever would be called depression. You've all heard it. Some of you might be so-called in it right now. Some of you might have gotten over it. Some of you might have had it in the past. Some of you might believe you're heading there. But that strict concept so-called depression is one of the number one ways to showcase that you are not a being in flow state. Because it could only happen to a being that is not in flow state. So this is why on this channel, we don't just talk about fucking information. That doesn't serve us as much as the utility taking action through this wisdom we have. It must be inspiring and motivating us to take action. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of fucking data floating around in our mind palace. And the issue here with most of the so-called truthers in the world, the truther community even, which I don't belong to and I don't try to be a part of either, because I noticed that that's kind of the ultimate comfort movement of people who want to believe that they have found the truth, a very egoic concept, but that's what they title themselves as. See, I'm working through groupthink all the time. I'm always questioning it. I don't like being categorized as any of this stuff because I feel like it takes me away from self. And once you get part of this groupthink bullshit, it becomes a cult, and then you die with the cult, or you're feeding off of the cult's power plant, which is you look at what that power plant is, and it exists on a hierarchy of power through the hierarchy of whatever the modern day hierarchical system seems to be, which sadly is fucking fame. So if you're the most famous person in the flat earth community, you're the one who you're the one who sits on the throne. And all truths come back to you. Everything is based on your truth. You see how fucking sad that sounds? That is the antithesis of waters above. That's the antithesis of what we're doing here. And I also by no means want to be an authority on gematria, or an authority on technical analysis, or an authority on nutrition, that doesn't serve me. I just know what I know, and it's worked for me thus far. But the tools and what we've really tapped into here is how to have all this data swimming around our brains and put it to work, how to take action. I talked about this in the beginning of my last video that I just put out on YouTube. I said, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is. So when this knowledge motivates and fuels you to take action is when you start becoming the real you. It's when you start tapping in to that essence within you. And trust me, once you feel what that feels like, there's no going back. You will start taking risks for it as if you were in love with it, because it is an aspect of love itself. Just like when you have a child, I'm pretty sure you would all admit that you would do anything for your child, right? Or if you had a wife or someone you really love or a best friend, you would do anything you could for that best friend. Well, when you have that same fucking feeling for the thing that you wake up and do every day, then boom, you made it, kiddo. Now, I'm not telling you that that thing is more important than your family or your children or your wife. What I'm telling you is that that is my analogy here. That's the way that you could visualize this. It's not that one thing is more important than the other. That's not the point. It's that if you could imagine for 1 second that as you do the thing that gives you that same feeling state, the same feeling state of, I will do anything to protect this thing and keep this thing going because it gives me a sense of life. It gives me a sense of purpose. It gives me a sense of beingness. And all of those things keep coming back to the same thing. Does it make me feel present? That's the truth. See, the reason why you would do anything for your kid is not just because you made your kid and it's your kid. It's because that kid, that person, taught you how to give something else more undivided, unconditional love and attention than yourself for the first time ever, while simultaneously making you present. You know that moment when you look into somebody's eyes and you don't even need to say you love them, but you feel that you love them? The reason why you felt that is because they made you feel present. They made all of yesterday and all of the worry about tomorrow become muted. All of that kind of fizzled away into gray, and you were only left with the color of that individual. Now figure out what that thing is that you do, the thing you do that has the ability to only put this color and this life force into what it is that you're focused on, and it has this ability to fizzle out and mute everything else. All of the traumas of yesterday and all of the worry of tomorrow. That is purpose. And that is only present. And that is only through life. And it is not that you have a life, it's that you are a life.